IDFC Bank, which I feel the first bank, which I feel it is likely to go up towards the 50-odd levels. It is above a good breakout area.
Okay, the next query comes in from Matthew V, who's written to us from Mumbai. He has 1,000 shares of Care Ratings, which he has bought at 1350. He's been holding on for 4 years and he has only lost money. He now wants to know what he should do at this point. Parthiv, first let me come to you. Somebody losing money in Care, what's the advice?
See, unfortunately, what has happened is that in case of Care, I think the results have been very, very lumpy. And no doubt, I think one would consider this as a business model which should be generally free cash flow generating, and a business model where one tends to expect higher multiples. The only reason being that it is asset light and it is purely based on the credibility. And we know that there are 3 major listed players: ICRA, CRISIL and Care. But unfortunately, in case of Care, I think in terms of the performance, it has been lagging. And this is the least preferred out of all 3 rating agency companies. And recently there were some issues regarding the MD and the CEO leaving, or rather put on leave. So all that has not helped the investor sentiment. I would strongly suggest that if one want to play this space, I think CRISIL is the best name in terms of the pedigree of the company. It's an S&P company, and no doubt I think the long-term prospects are very good despite some headwinds in terms of SEBI trying to regulate these players in terms of new rules and regulations. But I believe CRISIL, in terms of its track record and in terms of how the share price is done, I believe long-term I think definitely it can be more rewarding as compared to Care.
All right, so a person losing a fair amount of money, the advice is perhaps to pull that money out and bite the bullet. Take care if you must, if you had to. We have another query coming in from Nagpur. Mrs. Manisha Kotiwan calls us. Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, hi. I'm holding shares of Affle at 1545. I'm a short-term investor. I wanted to know the technical levels, the resistance and the support.
All right, Affle is one of those IPOs which has done fairly well this year. A few IPOs that came out this year and all of them have done phenomenally well in the tech space, the tech media space. Nirav, technical levels on Affle, her buy price is 1545. The current market price close to around 1630.
Yeah. See, I feel Affle is going to go up further. Just to give the levels, I feel 1580 is a good support area. See, I don't have much history because it is just listed. Right. But definitely, 1580 is a good support area, and I feel it is likely to move up towards the 1720, 1800 odd levels. Superb chart, a higher top, higher bottom formation. So she should continue to hold.
All right, on that note, we'll take a very quick break. But as we do that, here's a quick programming note as part of CNBC TV 18's 20th birthday celebrations. My colleague Ekta spoke with the stalwarts of the pharma industry on how the sector has evolved over the last 20 years and what are the growth triggers going forward. So here's a quick preview, and you can, of course, watch the entire show at 6:30 this evening.
A sector that has grown to become one of India's largest economic sectors. Indian pharma companies today are the largest supplier of drugs globally with a 20% market share.
We are a sector that can become a $100 billion sector with the right support and the right incentives.
Maybe in the next foreseeable future, in the next decade odd, what do you think will define us?
Good start is Ayushman Bharat, but we need to see a 2.0, 3.0, 4.4.
I'd like to imagine that India would come out on tops as being a market which basically disrupted the way it would reach its people.
At the top, the only competition is yourself. The real challenge starts when you reach beyond your own limits. It's there you find out just how great you can be. Lymphatic. Challengers welcome.
अपन का अक्खा लाइफ लैमिनेटेड ऐसा अपन खूब चलेगा
अभी तो और चलेगा अभी तो और बढ़ेगा
एशियन पेंट्स अल्टीमा प्रोटेक्ट लैमिनेशन वाला एक्सटीरियर पेंट
Get your kitchen to the next level of luxury with Architect drawers. Hetic fittings make your furniture work beautifully. German quality you can trust.
I dare to tread anywhere.
This is Vicky calling term plan कब लोगे darling
ये खर्चा एक टेंशन है मेरे फायदे का नो मेंशन है
ये पॉलिसी एकदम न्यू है ब्रो मंथली इनकम फॉर यू है
यानी जियो तो पैसा अपना साथी सेफ है फैमिली का सपना
ईगल लाइफ का नया आइटम इंश्योरेंस प्लान अब प्रोटेक्शन के साथ मंथली इनकम
क्लिक नो टेंशन
Hi, welcome back. You're watching Your Stocks. The next query that comes in is from Akash Singh, who's written to us from New Delhi. He has 100 shares of Bank of Baroda, which he has bought at 122 rupees. He's been holding for 6 months, and he's a medium-term investor. Now wants to know whether to hold or sell. So he's losing a little bit of money right now. Nirav, you recommend that he remains invested. Is there a good chance that he may recover his money in the medium term and then some?
Yeah. See, most of the PSU stocks are witnessing good buying. Even Bank of Baroda, for that matter, has witnessed good volumes, in the recent days. I believe it is on the verge of breakout of 102. Once this 102 breakout comes in, it can really, shoot up to 150 odd level. Some aggressive buying is expected. It is under inverse head and shoulder pattern formation. That breakout will come at 102. So, wait and hold positions at this point. You can also average once 102 is broken. That way, you can hold on till 150 and book profits there.
All right, so that's the view coming in on Bank of Baroda. Most of the PSUs, like Nirav said, doing fairly well. Just today, some bit of profit taking. Very hopeful of recovery coming in from those NCLT cases. Meanwhile, Chola investments from the broader markets at the low point of the day. And Siemens, remember yesterday the company reported their fourth quarter number. They have a September ending year, and those numbers look like they were below expectations. And the stock opened flattish and now has given up most of those gains, currently sitting at the low point of the day with a cut of 4%. We have another query coming in from Mumbai. Kevan Gandhi calls us. Hi Kevan,
Yeah.
good afternoon.
Yeah, hi. I'm Kevan calling. I had bought 10,000 shares of FSL 1 year back.
Right.
And I wanted to know whether I should hold on for another year or so, or should I change it to some other company which is performing better?
All right. Parthiv, your view on Firstsource?
See, very frankly speaking, we're not happy in terms of how the results for Firstsource have panned out. I think there's always a very big hype about this company becoming the next Infosys or TCS. But when we see in terms of the consistency of the results, what we'll end up seeing is that, this company does not perform up to the peers. And even in the digital IT segment, where I think we are seeing a lot of growth coming from a lot of its peers, this is where this company is struggling. And still the traditional services business that it offers, I think it is getting slightly commoditized. So I think I'm a little wary about the future prospects of Firstsource Limited. What I prefer in the IT space, and especially if the investor prefers a large or a mid-sized company, then I would suggest something like a TCS or an Infosys, and especially Infosys at current juncture purely because of the valuation and the growth momentum being intact. I think for a longer horizon, a stock like Infosys should outperform a stock like Future Source Limited.
Okay, Nirav, you have any target on the stock?
See, for a short-term perspective, I believe it is likely to come towards the 35, 40 odd levels and make a base. It is in that process of making a base at this point of time. It has a history that it is majorly sideways for a year or two, and then suddenly the spurt comes in, and it is in middle of this consolidation at this point of time. I believe, at 35 odd or, in between 35 and 40, one should be buying, doing average at these levels and, wait for targets of about 70, 80. They will come, if you look at a 4-5 year trend for this particular stock, it is still a higher top, higher bottom formation. It has never broken a previous bottom. So it is still intact and I believe it will again bounce back.
Okay, the next query is on Ever Ready. Mr. Ashok Kumar has written to us from Bengaluru. He has 850 shares, which he has bought at 62 rupees. He's now been holding on for about 7 odd months. He wants to know what he should do. So his ideal term is that he is a medium-term investor. Parthiv, first to you on Ever Ready. There have been some concerns even at the group level. I mean, would fundamental analysis warrant an investor continuing their investment here?
Not really, Sumer, and you very rightly pointed out that the Khetans or the management at group level, they certainly have problems. And as a result of which, even one of their flagship companies, which is Everready, which was doing reasonably well and launching new products besides the battery segment, I think is also now struggling. And I think any group entity which has issues related to pledge, I think we know that what the outcome happens. So I think totally I would suggest to avoid this counter. Not that we are bearish on this sector, we are extremely bullish on this sector. So in terms of playing the fast moving electric goods, I believe Polycab is the company which has fantastic long-term prospects along with its cable and wire segment.
All right, that is about Ever Ready. The tagline for their products is "Give me red," and to shareholders, it has given red for the last many years. A fair amount of debt on their books. We have another query coming in. Vignesh Chandran P writes to us from Calicut. Holds about 50 shares of Cyient at sub 400 rupees a piece for the last 2 weeks. A long-term investor wants to know whether to hold or sell. Still sitting even Stevens with a 100 rupee gain. Nirav, Cyient on the charts, how does that look?
Yeah, see, Cyient has broken some very important levels on the way down, from the sub 800 odd levels. Looks like, it is going to go down further. What has really happened, a year back was a lot of volumes were witnessed at higher levels around the 800. That means certain amount of distribution or, smart players exiting positions at those levels. Those volumes haven't really been seen at the lower end even yet. So without volumes, I cannot give this as a buy. I would suggest, exit Cyient at this point of time and, switch to something like a Jamna Auto or Aarti Industries, which are doing well and are likely to perform in the next 6-8 months.
All right, Parthiv, Nirav, thanks very much for your time this afternoon and for advising all of our viewers. We'll shift the focus now to an important board meet that's due this evening. The Securities and Exchange Board of India, in fact, their board meet is underway already, and we'll know in the evening, closer to 4:30, what's the outcome. My colleague Kritika Saxena joins in to take us through the agenda items. Kritika.
Well, there are several points that are being looked at, but the two things that are likely to be considered and possibly announced as well are the revamp of the rights issue process and stricter norms for portfolio management schemes. So as far as rights issue is concerned, we understand that the market regulator is looking at revamping the process of a rights issue to ensure that it is smoother and more efficient, and that's something that investors have been asking for. So we understand that they could look at shortening the allotment and listing timelines for rights issue. So they may look at reduction in time taken to process a rights issue to 31 days from the current timeline that they have of 55 to 58 days. They could also look at cutting the notice period to 3 working days from the current timeline of 7 working days, and effectively even that 7 goes up to being almost 10 to 11. So 3 clear working days is the timeline that they're looking at. They may also make the processes, the settlement, the payment, etc. are now digitized. So there's going to be an electronic method that's going to be used for services. Now, as far as portfolio management schemes is concerned, we understand that SEBI is looking at stricter norms for portfolio management schemes. So for this, they could look at increasing net worth requirement for portfolio managers to 5 crore rupees from the current limit of 2 crore rupees. They could also look at increasing minimum investment ticket size to 50 lakh rupees from 25 lakh rupees. And they are also considering the possibility of introducing direct plans for alternate investment funds and portfolio management schemes.
Thanks very much for that. And Mangalam, tighter norms for PMS schemes will be a big benefit to mutual funds, which are considered more transparent, they're cheaper, and generally a lot more benefits. And with the introduction of a focused fund, many people argue that perhaps there is no need for a PMS anyway. All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, but do stay tuned in. There's a special segment on Mythbusters coming up next.
Brought to you by Servo Futura G Plus from Indian Oil.
लगी नहीं अपनी शादी हो गई
है ना?
क्या?
मैं देता हूँ।
अरे
मैंने वैसे भी वचन दिया है, तुम्हारी सारी खुशियाँ शेयर करूँगा।
थैंक यू।
वेलकम। ये क्यों?
मैंने भी तो वचन दिया है, तुम्हारे सारे गम शेयर करूंगी।
गम?
मेरे खर्चे।
पिछले 100 सालों से ऐसी हर अच्छी शुरुआत का साथ दे रहे हैं हम, यूनियन बैंक ऑफ इंडिया।
Natural gas from ExxonMobil, a cleaner burn fuel that can help power Delhi and is also one of the ways to reduce emissions and improve air quality. ExxonMobil.
Pressure cooking now this easy. Prestige makes it possible. Prestige clip-on pressure cooker. जो convenient से करे प्यार, वो Prestige से कैसे करे इनकार?
Good feelings last a few hours. Good acts, more than a lifetime. Be remembered for good. Seagram's 100 Pipers. True legend.
Dude, do you think I'm doing this right?
No. You need to focus on your muscles.
Dude, forget about the right and wrong. And you should try pizza and burger instead.
Unnecessary advice ruining your life? Put pointless opinions in control. Upgrade to Money Control Pro, India's leading financial subscription service.
Ladies and gentlemen, आपकी यात्रा सुखद रहे, इसलिए अपने निजी सामान में वाघ बकरी इंस्टेंट टी पैक करना ना भूलें। बस वाघ बकरी इंस्टेंट टी में गर्म पानी मिलाओ और 1 मिनट में घर जैसी चाय का मजा उठाओ।
एकदम घर जैसी।
पैक किया क्या?
कुछ कुछ कुछ। थोड़ा एडजस्ट है? थोड़ा एडजस्ट। थोड़ा।
अब नो एडजस्ट, क्योंकि मैंने आवास के आसान होम लोन्स के साथ लिया है एक नया घर, हम सब के लिए।
एडजस्ट नहीं, अपग्रेड करो आवास के आसान होम लोन के साथ। आवास फाइनेंशियल्स, सपने आपके साथ हमारा।
This is TV18 and you're watching CNBC TV18.
Powered by RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, Growing Legacies. In association with SMC, Money Wise, Be Wise.
Investing in high-performing mutual funds always gives you the best returns. If you're someone who believes in this theory, you might want to consider checking up some facts, because many a times it doesn't really end up being true. In fact, it can be a simple myth. Let me illustrate by taking a couple of examples. We'll analyze some funds for you here quickly. Let's start with the DSP Small Cap Fund. If you look at the last 10 years performance track record, then it's very, very solid. Nothing to complain about. 17.1%. Change the time intervals, change the periods. Look at the last 3 years, and then the volatility in returns kicks in. Last 3 years, this fund is up just 0.6%. In the last 1 year, it's actually down. It's negative 2.4%. Let's look at the ICICI Value Discovery. Similar patterns emerge over here. 10-year returns, 14.5%. 3-year returns, just 5%. And the last 1 year, this fund has also been flat to slightly negative. Let's move to the HDFC Midcap Opportunities Fund, where you'll find a similar trend. The 10-year return is quite solid, 16.3%. but the 3-year return is 5.8%. The 1-year return is 1.6%. So these are, of course, mid-cap and small-cap funds. Therefore, there will be a lot of volatility in the returns, whereas if you look at the multi-cap category, you'll find slight more consistency over here. Take a look at the Kotak Standard multi-cap. The 10-year return is not as high as some of the small-cap funds that we discussed. It's about 13.6%. But if you look at the 3-year return, it continues to be 12.8%. The 1-year return is actually phenomenal. It's 14.3% at a time when the market was undergoing a lot of mid-cap stress. Look at the SBI Magnum multi-cap, similar story here. 10-year return 11.7, 3 years 11.5, and the 1-year return is actually quite fantastic, 14%. The reasons would be different. These are funds with different market capitalizations. Multi-cap funds have done well, they've been more consistent, and mid-caps and small-caps by nature are more volatile. So the simple point that we're trying to make here is don't extrapolate past performances. They will in no way be a measure of the future performance of the fund. There are lots of factors that can skew a fund's performance: the market condition, stock selection, the fund manager change. If he or she moves out of the fund, there could be a big change. There could be regulatory change as well. So make sure that you base your fund selection on some important attributes like your own risk appetite, the underlying stock portfolio, know the kind of stocks this fund is investing in. The fund manager's track record is important, as is consistency of return. So make sure you discuss all of this with your financial advisor and then make your selection.
We have the Nikkei, which is lower by 0.75%. The dollar yen is seeing a bit of strengthening from levels of 108.8.
We don't make a deal with China, I'll just raise the tariffs even higher.
Disinvestment of these companies is likely to come up in the cabinet today. There will be discussion on that front.
The market knows that there's a very active government, and that's been my whole thesis for last many days now.
Yes Bank reported gross NPAs of 7882 crore. What RBI detected was 11,159 crore.
Now we are waiting to see if and when the industry ARPUs can get back to their historically high levels.
50 points higher on the Nifty and 150 or 160 higher on the Sensex.
India needs a very significant hike. $1.50 ARPU does not justify, no matter how large the population is.
We have the Sensex, which is at a fresh record high. We have the Nifty, which is above 12,000.
We understand that the market regulator is looking at revamping the process of a rights issue.
PM Modi Sharad Pawar meet is currently underway.
The market is looking strong, I mean, we're up about 65 or 66 odd points.
Okay, been another good day for the market, though off the highest point, and more so on the bank Nifty. The Nifty is still okay, courtesy Reliance, still holding somewhere close to 12,000, but the bank Nifty has slipped quite a bit from the morning highs, and now the gains whittled down to only 50 points on that index. The mid-cap index also slightly underperforming today, but it's been a day of record in the sense that Sensex hit a new high and the Nifty crossed 12,000. So let's see what the last hour brings for us. Surbhi, hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Anuj. Interesting, right? When one part of the market starts firing, the other decides to sit out. So is this just a teasing game that's going on? Yeah, till we get to that 12,103 and beyond?
You know, one thing which I've seen in this market, Surbhi, is that it's not rewarding you if you are a day trader who's trading on momentum. You know, this is a market which is saying that, you know, you got to buy me when I give you that dip. Whether it's because of that Moody's news or IIP news or whatever, any negative news, and if the market gives you a dip, if you're buying it and holding it, the reasonable stop loss, 11,750, 800 was the number that we were discussing, right? It never went below that. So if you're holding, you're making a lot of money. I mean, for someone who bought yesterday, is still sitting on a lot of money, even on the bank Nifty. So that way, it's just that perhaps the market's not obliged to give you hourly returns. We tend to look at the market, you know, on a day-to-day basis. But if you look at the overall texture of the market, it's a market which has seriously moved up. So I think no complaints with the market. It's fine. What has happened is that there's a bit of a discount which has happened, which has now popped up on the bank Nifty futures, which at times is a good contra-indicator of where things could head. I think once again the bank, the bank that's sulking a bit from higher levels is ICICI Bank. Third day running that I'm seeing this trend, that intraday at around 500, it sort of struggles a bit. So pull out the intraday chart of ICICI Bank, there it is. Third day running it's happened, it's gone to 500 and has slipped from there. But all in all, I think you'll still have to go with the bulls, that they've had the upper hand.
Well, I guess, yeah, and they've got a big boy Reliance batting for them. Though even there, that headline that everybody was waiting for, the 10 lakh crore market cap number, that perhaps has to wait for another day. However, we still have 1 hour of trade left, so let's see which way this goes. Let's tell you what's lined up on the show, and there are some big voices coming your way. It's green across the screen, at least on the large cap indices. The Sensex did hit a fresh all-time high, driven by Reliance. The mid-cap index has underperformed, and the Bank Nifty has been slightly subdued compared to the others as well. We'll be analyzing a lot of these trends and, of course, the reasons behind the Morgan Stanley downgrading the full-year earnings expectations with Rhythm Desai. That's the big voice coming in, head of India Equity Research and India Equity Strategist at Morgan Stanley. He is, of course, speaking to us from their annual conference. Also, of course, along with that, we'll discuss the day's trends, the resurgence in pharma stocks, for instance. That will be a talking point. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com, Nishchal Maheshwari of Central Broking, and Kunj Bansal of the Sarthi Group with us on the fundamentals today. And of course, as always, along with all of this, technical ideas and trades for you coming up with Prakash Gaba and Mitesh Thakkar.
Okay, well, one trade which is clearly visible in the last 15 minutes is the long IT trade. Some of the money perhaps been taken off banks and moving to IT. So Infosys has moved to low to high point of the day. There it is, Nifty IT. How should you position yourself in this last hour of trade? We have Mitesh Thakkar and Prakash Kaba now joining us with closing strategies. Good afternoon, Mitesh. Cooled off a bit, especially on the Bank Nifty. What would be your trade now and stock specific calls?
Yeah. So Anuj, I think we've kind of cooled off from near the recent highs of 12,020. I think the intraday high was 12,038 and the hourly closing which we got was 12,024. So that's fair enough. I think the structure is still good. I think 11,950 now becomes your trading stop loss. As long as that is not being broken, I would expect logically the 12,100 highs to be retested, and eventually a breakout above that could happen as well. So just maintain your long bias unless until we break 11,950. I think hold on to long positions. This could be a situation when the market has gone up for in the last hour yesterday and today also we had some follow through. So I'm giving up some gains closer to the previous swing high, but the structure is quite strong, so I would stay positive. The calls which I have right now are a buy on Dabur with a stop at 461 for targets of 478, and NCC is a buy, keep a stop around 59, look for targets of 65.
Okay, so still going with some buys. That's Mitesh's call. Prakash, good afternoon to you. Trading the index last hour, and then of course, what about stocks?
Good afternoon. I don't think I would trade the last hour because the bar that is generated, it made a new high, not a new high, recent high, it crossed by 4 points. The bar that is generated is an indecisive bar. On the Bank Nifty front, had it not been for Reliance, Nifty would have not crossed here. Perhaps would have been a bar exactly like Bank Nifty. So to me, there is a bit negative out there, more of an exhaustion pattern out there. So I'm not trading the last hour, on the buy side, but I'll just wait it out. Perhaps we could see some kind of a sluggishness, maybe open near the high tomorrow and then trade down. Who knows how it holds? But it is stretched, I must say that. No sign of weakness, but the market looks stretched to me. I like two stocks here. Divi's looks certainly like a buy. Very good chance Divi's can climb to around 1825 zones. Stop below 1765. I also like Pidilite. Pidilite can climb to around 1350 zones. Stop below 1315.
Okay, fair enough. That's some technical ideas. Let's move on then. SP Tulsian of sptulsian.com and Nishchal Maheshwari of Centrum Broking now join us. Good afternoon. Mr. Tulsian, one of the stocks of the day today has been Sun Pharma. Your thoughts on this big 6% move?
Anuj, in fact, the pharma stocks seem to be on the buying mode for the last maybe 1 week or so, and that's what we have discussed, in fact, twice or thrice. But yes, the Sun Pharma results probably is making the people to go for the fresh buying, which is also seeing the short covering. But we are not keeping, as I've been maintaining that probably we have a view on the other 2 or 3 pharma stocks, maybe like Biocon, Divi's Lab, Glenmark, and not keeping a buy call on the Sun Pharma at that too, especially after having risen today by about 5-6%.
Okay, pharma continues to really dominate the action, doesn't it? You'll have new names get added on the list almost every day. Nishchal Maheshwari is also with us. Nishchal, good afternoon. Good to have you on the show. The stock that I want to start off with is IndusInd Bank. It's almost coming out of a long, deep slumber and some painful weeks, of course, earlier on in September. What's your take on it now?
Afternoon, Surbhi. So we have been positive on IndusInd Bank. I think after a long time, the stock seems to be doing better. Basically, on the fundamental side, also I think valuation-wise, the stock seems to be in a good position. After this NCLT issue has got sorted, though they are not the beneficiaries out of that. But definitely, I think the outlook on the stock seems to be in a better position now. So we are positive on the stock.
Okay. Positive on the stock is Nishchal on IndusInd Bank. Nishchal, hi, good afternoon. What about Z Entertainment? 300 on the stock now.
Afternoon, Anuj. I think one should wait for this overhang to get cleared out, basically. So maybe whatever the market is talking about, somewhere around these prices, the stocks which are being held by the mutual funds and all. So once that block gets placed, I think this could be a good stock to actually then acquire it.
Okay, Z Entertainment on the move as well. Mr. Tulsian, we've been discussing this point, for a while. The rally in PSU banks. Today, of course, SBI is finally taking a bit of a breather. But in the second rung, the tier 2, tier 3, are there any names worth backing? Because a lot of these stocks have been flying around on hopes of recovery.
Surbhi, I don't think that you can take a comforting view to have them as a portfolio stock in your in your investment list. But still, if you wish to, then two names comes to my mind, or maybe three names. One is the Bank of Baroda, second is Canara Bank, and third is Indian Bank, because at least you seem to be having some kind of comfort coming in on the fundamental basis. But yes, SBI right that the stock is seeing some profit booking, but let's not forget that it has risen almost by about 7-8% in this last two or 3 days. So obviously this is just a respite or just a pause, which we are going to see to see the again, SBI moving up further. So taking the call on the PSU banking stocks as a comforting stocks, we continue to have a positive view on SBI.
Okay, Mr. Tulsian, now that today perhaps in most likely cases today, you should have approval on both BPCL and Concor. But is there anything left on the table now from these prices on the stocks?
Anuj, I think you have quite a lot upside seen in Concor, because in spite of having the strategic investors being given only 26%, or maybe the government retaining 26%, then still, the stock is seen to be having good upside potential. But I don't think that in BPCL, one can really make to see good upside. But the list of, as I've said in the morning, or, which I've been saying for last 2-3 weeks, that the list of the companies which needs to be, which will be selected by the cabinet today, has to be seen, because they are talking of 4 or 5 companies. So even if I presume that BPCL and Air India could be for a complete strategic investor, or maybe total sellout by the government, then still you are left with Concor, and 2 other names need to know whether it is BHEL or whether it is Shipping Corporation or any other company, or maybe even Hindustan Copper, so that needs to be understood. And there is still, I think that you have good upside potential seen, maybe except Shipping Corporation, because Shipping Corporation is more seen as a loss making, and there is not much significant interest in the shipping sector going forward. So yes, the Concor still looks having good upside potential from here, and once the broad contours of the strategic investor induction gets to know, then the share has the potential to move up by 6-7% from the current level.
Okay, so staying positive on some of those divestment candidates. We should have, of course, more clarity by the end of this evening once the cabinet meeting is over and done. We need to take a break on that note, but a quick reminder, don't go anywhere, because we get that all-important conversation going with Ridham Desai of Morgan Stanley. He is as bullish as ever on India. In fact, says that expect even the macro numbers to start improving in the next couple of quarters. That special conversation coming right up as the market hits 12,000 on the Nifty.
RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, growing legacies. क्या आपको इंडिपेंडेंट फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर बनना है? आपको चाहिए होगा एक ऑफिस, स्टाफ, रिसर्च, सेबी रजिस्ट्रेशन और सॉफ्टवेयर। टेंशन हटाओ और ये सब कुछ पाओ विद AAA फ्रॉम IIFL सिक्योरिटीज। कीजिए इक्विटी में ट्रेड, ऑफर कीजिए क्लाइंट्स को मल्टीपल फाइनेंशियल सॉल्यूशंस और कमाइए उम्दा कमीशन। 360 डिग्री पोर्टफोलियो रिपोर्ट के साथ अपना बिजनेस भी ट्रैक कीजिए। आज ही IIFL.com/AAA पर रजिस्टर कीजिए और बन जाइए एडवाइजर एनी टाइम एनीवेयर। AAA by IIFL Securities.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.
Once there was a pretty little girl who lived in a house that had a little garden. They shared grown-up dreams, secrets, memories, every lovely day to go down in history. Forever and ever, everywhere they go.
Guys, we still need to find a hotel.
No panic. I have Trivago on my phone. Trivago scans hotel deals from the major booking sites, so you can find the best deal for your favorite hotel. Hotel Trivago.
The world is too big for any of us to change it alone. But we can change our world, our space, our environment. Because when we change what we can, we end up changing the world. And often all it takes are the few to inspire the others by switching to an electric car. Let's do it together and inspire others to join the movement.
Change what you can with the MG ZS EV.
Welcome back. So still floating around that level of 12,000. That's been the market today. Mr. Tulsian, I want to ask you about these two, banks which became part of the troubled category. I'm talking about RBL Bank, which is recovering today, and also IndusInd, which has had a very choppy, volatile last couple of months. What would the advice be? Is there any sense in buying them now, or stick to the other ones that are the larger ones that are working more easily?
Surabhi, if you want to play safe, then probably the safer ones, maybe like Axis Bank, SBI, and Axis Bank and SBI looks really quite good. But if you want to play on the if you want to take little risk, then even all three banks, that is IndusInd Bank, RBL Bank, and Yes Bank looks quite good. Because even if you see the Yes Bank, probably the divergence which has been seen of 3,000 crore is in fact reaffirmation of the confidence of the quality, and maybe going forward, which they have indicated of the capital raising plan seen, getting materialized in the month end for which the board meeting will be convened, is again seen positive. So yes, if you want to play take a little risk, then even all three, or maybe even one could add the name of IDFC First Bank also. So they are seen to be in the second run, but the choice goes with the Axis Bank and SBI in view of the recent recovery, in pursuant to this Supreme Court order to be seen in cases of other stress accounts, maybe like Bhushan Power, Ruchi, Soya, Alok Industries kind of stocks, kind of accounts. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Nishchal, the stock of the last 3 days has been clearly Bharti Airtel from the index. It's up 17% in fact this month. But at 436, do you think it's perhaps run up too fast? Do you think it needs to cool off now from here?
Yeah, I think so. Basically, at these valuations, the stock is trading close to 8 times EV to EBITDA. So I think it's time to take away some profits. And as yet, we are not sure actually what kind of price increases will happen and who's going to be the winner of that. Because maybe if you assume a 10 to 15% price increase also, then we have to actually see that how the movement of the subscribers happen in the next 1 or 2 months, and thereafter who will be the winner out of all this. So I think it's good to take away some profits. 20% up is quite a good number basically in this market.
Okay, as Bharti Airtel finally taking a bit of a breather today after the stunning rally of the last many weeks. By the way, NCC is surging higher, 6% on the upside. In fact, even IRB just had some flashes on a couple of TOT contracts that are being bid out by the NHAI. Nishchal, does this side of the market excite you, at all? Any road companies, any EPC players in your preferred stocks?
So NCC is one basically, Surabhi, out there which we like quite a bit. though we like PNC also in that, but I think NCC